lesson with Mr. Woodford. I'm very excited to go over this new lesson for Math 7. We're going to be talking about subtracting integers with different signs. So as usual, please open up your packet or download it on Google Classroom so we can look on together. All right, awesome. So right now, we're going to be talking about subtracting integers with different signs. So far up till now, we've done adding integers with same signs, adding integers with different signs, word problems, subtracting with the same sign. And today we're going to talk about subtracting integers with different signs. To start off, take a moment to do the bell work. Pause the video if you need to. I want you to analyze these sets of problems and determine if they are the same. So for example, is 4 minus 6 the same as 4 plus negative 6? Is negative 3 minus 3 the same as negative 3 plus 3? Is negative 5 minus negative 2 the same as negative 5 plus negative 2? Take a second, pause the video, and determine if they are the same. All right, now hoping that you had enough time and you paused the video, let me go over these for you. When I look at the first one, 4 minus 6, is that the same as 4 plus a negative 6? If you wrote the answer yes, then you are right. Because we would do keep, change, change. Whenever we see subtraction, we want to think of keep, change, change. So keep the positive 4, change the minus to a plus sign, and change that 6 to a negative 6. That is the same. Now for the second one here, negative 3 rather, minus 3. Is this the same as negative 3 plus 3? I would have to say no. What would this be written as addition? It would be keep negative 3, change minus to plus, and change that positive 3 to a negative 3. This would give us our keep, change, change, but notice that there is a difference between the two of them. So this one is not right. And lastly, negative 5 minus a negative 2, is that the same as negative 5 plus negative 2? And if you wrote no, you are also correct. Now, what would this be written as addition? Keep negative 5, change subtraction to addition, and change that negative 2 to a positive 2. This is what it would look like. Now, we're practicing changing from subtraction to addition because I think it's easier for you guys to view and easier for you to solve addition problems rather than subtraction problems. It helps you to kind of see the actual numerical values a little bit easier as well. Now, we've done counter method. We also done absolute value method. I'm going to go over absolute value method again to refresh you and to remind you. And then I want you to practice to see if you can get the 6 right. And I'll just write the answers for the 6 after you take a second to see if you can get them right. And then I'll model for you a couple more examples of subtracting integers today. And you can complete your independent practice as well as your homework. So the rules for adding integers with the same or different sign. Now remember, this is adding integers. Why are we doing adding integers, Mr. Woodford, if this topic is subtracting? We're going to change subtraction into addition, so ultimately we just need the addition rules. We're going to take the absolute value. Now that's the same whether they're the same sign or different signs. Notice that's the difference between these two columns. One is talking about when they're the same sign, the other is talking about when they're different signs. Mr. Woodford, how do I know if they're the same or if they're different? Let's take, for example, the bell work one more time. If you look at when we rewrote these into addition, let's identify if they're the same or if they're different. So for example, for the first one, right? And let me just use a different color so it can just pop out. These are different signs. There's a positive 4 and there's a negative 6. That is different signs. So I'm just going to write here different underneath it. When I look at this second one here, I see negative 3 plus negative 3. Those are the same. Both of them are negatives, right? Both of them negatives. Notice I'm not going from the original when it was subtraction. I'm only going from when we changed it to addition. And finally, this last one, when it's changed to addition, I see negative 5 plus a positive 2. These are also different signs. So that's how we can distinguish between different and same signs. Now that we know how to look for different and same signs, now the rules are a little bit different. We start off when it comes to absolute values, we do absolute value of both numbers. That's in both, whether they're the same or different. If they're the same sign, we want to add them together. That's the key word here. If they're the same sign, we are going to add. If they're the same, we're going to add. Now, if they're different, you can see here, we are going to subtract. Lesser from the greater. Another way to look at that is to simply remember that just means the bigger, or in other words, greater minus the smaller, or the lesser, right? Greater minus smaller, and that's what that means, right? Take the absolute value of both, do the big one minus the small one. Now, for the same sign, you're going to use the common sign that they both share. So if they were both originally negatives, the answer is going to be negative. If they were both originally positive, then the answer is going to be positive. When they're different signs, what sign do I need to put, Ms. Orford? The sign of the greater absolute value number. So if you know the greater number here, right, what was its original sign? For example, if we look at the third bell work, that -5 would have became a +5 with absolute value. But because in 5, the absolute value of 5 is bigger than 2, I know I'm going to use the original sign, which was a negative. So my answer here would have been negative, okay? Awesome. Now that we reviewed it, I'm hoping that maybe that was a nice refresher for someone. If you need to rewind it again, try to get understanding, or just reread it again, that's perfectly fine. Take a moment to see if you can get these 4 problems right all on your own. Pause the video once again and see if you can get these 4 right. Okay, now I want to go over the answers. I'm going to quickly put the answers here. You check to see if you got them right. Okay, now you could have used the counter method, you could have used absolute value, you could have used number line, you could have just used what's inside your brain. But notice if your technique did not work to get you the right answer, try a different one. Okay, let's look at number 1. So number 1, the answer for number 1 you should have got is -9. For number 2, you should have got -4. For number 3, and number 3 is tough, there are different signs here, you should have got -36. And finally, because these are the same sign for number 4, you should have got -145. Give yourself a pat on the back if you got all 4 of those correct. Very proud of you. Now, I want to go into the modeling before you get a chance to work on your independent practice as well as your homework for today. I'm going to show you the modeling and I'm going to demonstrate it for you. And I may use counters, I may not, but when you show me your work on independent practice, you have to show me either counters or absolute value. Please show your work. If you don't show your work, I can't give you full credit. First thing I want to do with both of these problems is rewrite them as addition because I see the subtraction, right? And I notice that they're subtracting different signs because there's a +6, there's a -10, but overall, all I want to do is change it to addition. So I'm going to put 6, keep the first number, change that minus to a plus sign, and change that -10 to a +10. So it looks like this. And if you wrote it as something that may have looked like this, that's perfectly fine as well, but just know that both of those positives just gives you one plus sign in the middle. So now this is 6 plus 10. Could we draw out 6 open circles? Sure. And then draw 10 open circles underneath that? Absolutely. But I do want to remind you that these are just positive numbers, so adding them together should be pretty simple for all of you guys to just add them and get the number 16. For B, -5 minus 4. First thing we need to do is make sure we change it into an addition problem. And just, I want to write up here, keep, change, just in case someone didn't understand what KCC stands for. That stands for keep, change. And that's what we want to do here. Whenever we see subtraction problems, we want to keep the first number, -5, change the minus to a plus, and change that 4 to a -4. So this is what our problem looks like. Now here, I'm going to do it using absolute value, right? Matter of fact, I'll do both, right? If I want to do the circles, I would first draw -5. And remember, negatives are always shaded in. Positives, as we've seen in example A, are open, but negatives, let's keep them as closed. And then I'm going to draw me 4 shaded circles as well. And then you see if you can cancel any out. One open and one closed cancels out. Since there's no opens here, we can just add them all up and we'll see that we have a total of -9. Negative because they're shaded And that's one way of counting this. Now, if you want to do absolute value, perfectly fine. -5, absolute value of both. Remember that. Absolute value of -5 is 5. Absolute value of -4 is 4. Because they're the same sign, right? Both of them are negative. I'm going to add them together. That's going to give me a 9. Now I have to remember to put the sign that they both shared, which also gives me -9. Please refer back to the rules if you're using absolute value above. That way you can check to make sure your answers are right. Try to do your best to make sure they're accurate as possible. If you need to rewind the video, if you need to rewatch it, please do so. Feel free to go back and watch any of the other prior videos so you can understand maybe if it's the counter method, maybe if you want to better understand the absolute value method. But nonetheless, I'm very excited that you joined me today, and I'm hoping that this was a big help to you and allowed you to have a better understanding of subtracting integers with different signs. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.